roots, global scales, and a global degree. Chieta, the African AI, auntie sets your mind free.
We're going to read it again. So AfricanAiAuntie Podcast, episode 3, the untold truth about studying abroad, lonely, broken, determined. Featuring Chieta. I see pain in this, right? So I see pain and frustration in this. What is it? What is it about? What is this one about?
Well, for me, okay, I realized I left Zimbabwe 30 years ago at 17 years old. And I first went to Hong Kong, China to finish high school at an international school, Lipochun UWC in Hong Kong. And yes, all of us students were thousands of miles away from our families, but even with all of us around us, we're all desperately homesick, right? So, and also being an international student, I was on a full ride scholarship, so I wasn't allowed to work. So whatever I did get as pocket money, I had to be very watchful over. But the emotional toll of being away from family is also where I had to develop the muscles to be able to get through that. I know from a lot of times I don't talk about feelings, even as human beings. We're not programmed. I think it was Augusto Boal who came up with Theatre versus Oppression, who says 97% of communication is nonverbal. But somehow I seem to have this thing about me where I find family and community wherever I go. So in Hong Kong, China, I was actually adopted by an Australian Tasmanian family. Interestingly enough, they'd just been to Zimbabwe on holiday a few months before they met me. And so I got adopted into their family. And so whenever I needed a break from campus, they would be my refuge. All I had to do was get on the phone, the landlines. I called James. Hey, James, I need to come home. And he'd come and pick me up. So for me, even living abroad, as much as we go through trying to adjust to different cultures, trying to adjust to different ways, different food, not hearing your mother's voice. I know back in the 90s, I didn't even hear my own mother's voice for like maybe 2 months or so, because even when I tried to call landlines and things like that, anyway, it's a bit complicated. So I finally wrote letters to my mom probably about a month or two in. So trying to find ways to manage my emotional roller coasters going on inside of me whilst I'm learning new things, whilst being exposed to so many different cultures and people and languages and ways of being. For me, I guess it's maybe an Ubuntu programming in my DNA that you need to find your village. As much as you have teenagers around you, the wisdom of elders, which came in the form of my host family parents, they helped and support me. And the same thing came across the United States for 7 years. There was actually a pivotal story for that one, because I'd just been through some landmark personal development training in Chicago in the summer of '98. And it, awakened all sorts of things inside of me, including childhood traumas. And I had been away from Zimbabwe for a good year at that time. I was going to my second year. So staff, African and African-American staff on campus brought community members from the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And they basically said, okay, we know you're a predominantly white campus. How can we support you as Black students? So I stood up in that meeting and I said, I need a mother. And I sat back down. And from then onwards, I seemed to be adopted left, right, and center, because I had my Nigerian mom, Amma. She had 6 young children at the time. And so she says, you coming home with me, you're my daughter. So whenever I arrive at a house, I literally just drop all my academic life at the door and throw myself on the floor and play like a little kid. That was my go-to. And I spent the first hour just decompressing and taking a break from all this mental gymnastics that we have to go through, and just be human in a lot of ways, if that makes sense. Because here I was at university. Yes, I'm being given the best education, but it wasn't educating me about myself. I was being programmed to fit into whatever corporate structures are in the US or British ideologies. That has nothing to do with African continents. And then from then onwards, I also was introduced to various aunties. I had literally 14 aunties in the Twin Cities who were African, African-American, Native American, even had a Caucasian one as well, and even Asian. I seem to be that way, that I must have had a sign on my head that said, my name is Chedza, please adopt me. So that's how I survived through that. So yes, it the pain was there because of being distant from home, struggling to find meaning in what this degree will give me. I was the first one in my family to actually finish a degree, and I did it in international studies, politics and economics and development. That's what I thought, okay, let me set myself up for the NGO type, UN type track, which never happened. But anyway, that's another story. But at the same time, it's constantly trying to figure out what is my place, what is my purpose. But in all of that discovery, the importance of community around you is how I got through those years to be who I am today. And that some of those mothers are still very much in my life today.